Welcome to Spoonie Space, our weekly web-based show. Spoonies, excuse me, my fiber fog messed me up there. By Spoonies, for Spoonies. But the question is, what is a Spoonie? A Spoonie is someone with an invisible chronic illness or mental illness that is struggling in their daily life. Spoonie Space is part of a Spoonies For Life community, and we have a website, a Facebook page, and now we're expanding into a forum along with this web-based show. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Mark. I've been a Spoonie for about 11 years now, and I have fibromyalgia. But how did I get that? How does that happen? For me, I was in the Navy, fully fit, active, top of my game, top of my life, and I fell out of an aircraft. Down the steps. That injury didn't cause any serious breaks or trauma, but my pain never went away. With fibromyalgia, some believe that there are trigger events that cause these, and those can be emotional or physical, and it varies from person to person. For me, the physical trauma of falling out of a plane stayed with me, and the pain just kept going. And eventually I got medically discharged from the Navy and, became a Spoonie. And so I had to learn how to deal with that. And that's what the topic of today's show is. Lois, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you became a Spoonie.
Hello, my name is Lois. I have been a Spoonie I've been a Spoonie all my life, but I didn't become totally disabled until about 3 years ago. And I didn't really know I was a Spoonie until a few years ago. I honestly believed the stuff people told me when I was little. Oh, people don't have pain at your age. So I pushed through and didn't think I was a Spoonie. And then about 3 years ago, gastroparesis decided to enter my life, and that basically means my stomach is paralyzed, and I'm very limited in what I can eat, lots of nausea, vomiting, but I've gotten it pretty much under control right now. It, however, was really life-altering. The next year I received a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and a few months ago I received the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, which my doctors believe has caused the gastroparesis and fibromyalgia. When the gastroparesis hit, I was put in the hospital, had to leave my job. I was an ER nurse, and it caused me to not be able to go back to work, and it was very rough. On top of losing the job that I absolutely loved and worked very hard to get, I lost that huge income, and it was devastating. It caused us to lose our home, lose one of our vehicles. We had to live with family. We had to move away from where we were living, and I at one point didn't think I was going to make it, and I even had a suicide attempt at one point. But I pulled through it and realized this wasn't the end of the world, and I could make it through this, and I had a lot of help to get through it, and I had a support system that helped me. I have my father, my husband, my children. I have a lot of people helping me through it, and that's very important. We'll get to all that stuff later, but I don't want to keep dragging on, so I will pass it over to Christina.
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I've been a Spoonie for about 25 years. We figured back until I was about in junior high, we could trace my pain and fatigue back to then. Originally it was diagnosed with arthritis, and then rheumatoid arthritis, and then finally in my early 20s with fibromyalgia. I'm not exactly sure how I became a Spoonie with fibro. They say with trauma, it could be emotional trauma, it could be physical trauma, and I've certainly had both in that time period. So we think it was probably due to that. It was a big transition because when I found out that it was fibromyalgia, I had a very young child and a rocky marriage. So it really played a big role in how I learned how to deal with being a Spoonie. How about you, Dina?
I too have in some ways always been a Spoonie, but when I was younger, I was a very athletic Spoonie. My family denied that there was any problems with me. I would dislocate ankles and wrists, and they said there was nothing wrong. I have what's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome type 3, which is hypermobile. It means you dislocate things a lot. I got along with it. It wasn't until high school when I had run track at a very high level. I ran, along with everybody else in my school, attempted to run TAC, which is Junior Olympic track, and then high school track, state. I ran very competitive track and trashed my knees, and they kept dislocating to the point where I couldn't get upstairs, couldn't do anything. It wasn't until I was in a very severe car accident with my job, where I worked with adults with brain injury, that things got really bad and I was starting to have difficulty with my job. We didn't know why, though. We didn't know why I couldn't hold my arms up on the steering wheel for very long. They diagnosed carpal tunnel and all of those random things. Recently, we have added mast cell activation syndrome, which effectively ended my last job because of too many anaphylaxis that happened at work, and that kind of tends to scare your employers. And recently we figured out I also have degenerative disc disease in my cervical spine and scoliosis in my lower lumbar spine, which can be attributed to the car accident and the Ehlers-Danlos because my spine is too hypermobile, which may be ending my career, which is a difficult pill to swallow when I have spent most of my life getting a master's degree and all of the extra, as Lois said, I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor, licensed independent counselor. You spend a lot of time doing all those years of education to get where you want to go. It's hard to let it go. So we'll talk about all that later. Mark?
Thank you, Dina. And I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to our comments here as far as people saying how to connect with others or how to deal with becoming a Spoonie. And Kat says, definitely connect with other Spoonies. Don't let people tell you you're lazy when you're sitting around or resting. When you hurt all the time, the best thing to do sometimes. Find people who support you and don't bring you down. Find people that can understand your pain and know your own limits and don't push them. I think this is an excellent point, and we have a great community here with Spoonies for Life where we're able to do that and connect in our own support group on our website. Why don't you tell us a little bit, Christina, how connecting into Spoonies for Life has helped you?
I have recently lost my job. Well, I didn't lose it. I left it because I worked with children. I did in-home therapy. And the therapist part of me working with people with disabilities was pretty much my identity. My whole life revolved around it. And having left that job was pretty devastating. I felt like I really lost who I was. And my idea was just to walk away and take a break and see if I could get myself feeling better and then go back. still working on that, but the longer I work on it, the harder it is. So I was getting pretty depressed. I have chronic depression and seasonal affective disorder in the first place, so this winter was a very tough winter. I was part of the Spoonies For Life main page, and when Natalie contacted me and asked if I would like to be an admin, I got into the support group, and it really has fulfilled the need for me to help others, as well as connecting with the people who have a lot of the same odd symptoms or frustrations that I do. It really helps because I can say I'm not alone, because other people are feeling these weird things too and feeling just as alone as I was. And I can say to my husband, oh, I read that somebody else had this today. I'm not crazy, you know. And he'll say, well, you're still crazy, but, you know, I understand it now. But it really has given me a relief, because just that connection with someone who has the weird symptoms or just the breakdown days that you do, and you can help build them up, and then they help you build yourself back up, or they can answer your medical questions if you say, oh my gosh, I have this really weird thing happening, can you help me figure out what it might be in the meantime while I'm trying to get a hold of my doctor. And it just really has brought me back to not being as depressed and feeling that little bit more fulfilled. Lois?
Excuse me. When I didn't find Spoonies for Life right away after getting diagnosed and becoming disabled. I started counseling, and my therapist kept telling me, you need to find a support group, you need to find a support group. Well, being sick all the time, I was like, great, how do I find a support group? I can't go. So she said, you need to look online. And so I was very reluctant. I think in the beginning there's always kind of that reluctance of not wanting to listen to anything anybody tells you. You want to kind of be stuck in the poor me mode. But I finally, I wasn't on Facebook at the time, so I finally got back on Facebook, and I found Spoonies for Life. I think it was pretty small when I first joined, maybe a few hundred people. And it was honestly life-changing to finally feel like I wasn't crazy. And because I hadn't yet gotten my rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, and so doctors make you feel like you're crazy. And I had, let's see, 1, 2, 3 rheumatologists before my current one tell me absolutely not. And so during that time of I know I'm not crazy, I know this isn't my head, I had the group to lean on and to say, hey, you know, because there's so many people that have the same thing or something similar, they would say, no, that's not in your head, that's exactly what it feels like. And it's nice to be validated. And so I highly, highly, highly encourage anybody who is a Spoonie or who has become ill or pain or even mental illness, find a support group. If you prefer the in-person, go in person. If you don't like going in person or you can't, online. Spoonies for Life is a great one. We love it. Obviously, we're promoting it, but if you're not on Facebook, we do have our website, Spoonies for Life website, that you can get a lot of information on. But there's also lots of online support groups too, where you can just kind of post, where you don't have to actually talk or interact, but it's still important to find that connection, so you don't feel so alone, because that isolation you automatically get depression, becoming chronically ill and getting a crazy diagnosis. It's just natural. It's natural because you lose a huge chunk of your life. And so to help combat that depression, you need help being lifted up. And so I highly encourage seeking that out. On that, Dina, what do you have to say?
I pretty much agree with most of what Lois said. For me, I got a lot of freedom with the EDS diagnosis because for me, I spent most of my life being told I was crazy because, as Lois said, EDS, Ehlers-Danlos, is where you sublux or partially dislocate joints a lot. But because you're so loose jointed, you also put them back easily. So doctors are like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're fine. You're nuts. And if you do go in, they call you a hypochondriac. You just have a little bit of swelling. So you don't go in because you're like, why the heck do I want to go in? Because they're just going to tell me I'm nuts again. And so you wind up with all this swelling. And so then you don't go in until it's something really bad. And then they're like, why the heck did you not go in sooner? And you wind up with really bad stuff. So that's frustrating. And then it's like this massively freeing thing to be like, oh, wow. You're telling me that it wasn't between here and here all these years. I do have a diagnosis. I do have something that's actually legit, that's actually wrong with me, and I can move on. I can move on with my life. I can do other things. The main thing that's wrong with me is not fixable. It's not. It's like what's wrong with Lois. It's what's wrong with all of us. They're not fixable. They're chronic, and that's frustrating. And that's why these groups exist, because fibro, RA, EDS, they're not going away. There are meds to help them. Some of them will get worse. RA, EDS, these things are often progressive. But support groups are helpful. Specific support groups for your conditions are really helpful. Find them. We love Spoonies for Life, but if you need a specific support group that can specifically help you for what you have, go find it too, because it will help you. Absolutely go find what you need. For me, what was really important with Spoonies for Life is I left my job because I was getting too sick, and it was clear that I was going to get fired if I didn't leave it, and I didn't need that on my resume. And then all heck broke loose, and then I got more diagnoses, and blah, and I have to figure out if I can go back to work or if I need to apply for disability, which it's looking like I'm probably going to have to do. But I came here, and I immediately had a small group at the time, because when I joined it was only a few hundred people. But I immediately had this group of people who needed skills that I had, and I could give them, because one of my licenses is federal, so I felt like, okay, I can do this. I can help people, and I don't have to worry about it. So here, let me give support. Let me give what I can and not overstep those boundaries, because I'm not going to give, too much and put Natalie's place in jeopardy. When it got to be that point, we back off and we do what we need to do to get people the real support they need in real life. But it was really massively helpful to be able to use what my training was. And it pulled me out of that hellhole I was falling into. Because I am an empath. I am a healer. That is why I spent all those years in college. And it was really good to be able to do that again. I don't need a paycheck to get that feedback. Mark?
Thank you very much, Dina. And I actually want to go ahead and move to this next topic that Sarah had commented on that I think is a really important step that we haven't really fully covered. Lois slightly hinted at it, but here's what Sarah says. Sarah says, take time to grieve and mourn. Your grief is beautiful. Mourning means you loved something, and it's not a bad thing. Everyone around you will want you to look at the bright side, which is good at times, but it's healthy to be sad too. And I think her point is it's recognizing what you're not able to do anymore. You can't do certain activities, and it sucks. Oh, I can't go, push myself for a long week to go do whatever event or whatever because it's just not possible. And you got to mourn that you can't do that. It's, almost like that party almost died a little bit, and you got to be sad about it and let that happen, and then figure out how you're going to accommodate your life from this point on. Because they're not going away, as Dina said, they're here for, life. That's why we're Spoonies for life. And so, you need to take that time and recognize that. Lois, do you want to add on to that?
I think that's a really good point about mourning. I fought that for quite a while. I had the hope of returning to work, the thought that I could return to work for quite a bit. And then I realized, okay, this body really doesn't work right. This isn't happening. I'm not going to go back to work. And so I had to, with the help of my therapist, realize that I had to mourn what I lost, because you really are losing something huge. To lose the ability to use your body correctly, to lose the ability to eat properly, and to live in a body that you know is dying is so massively life-changing that you have to mourn that. You lose so much, and a lot of us have lost our careers or in the process of having to leave our careers and the things that we love, and so yeah, I think it's really, really important to grieve it and mourn it, and because once you do and you come through it, you kind of can breathe again, and you can go, okay, well, that's not life anymore, and you can find new dreams and new hopes and new ways of life. But if you don't grieve it and you don't mourn it, you're going to be stuck in it. And then you're going to miss out on so much in life. And it's going to increase your symptoms. It's going to increase your pain, and it's going to increase, nausea, and whatever it is your body does with your disease is going to increase that, because you're going to be in that constant down state. And it's proven stress and things like that affect you physically. So definitely go through the mourning. And if you don't know how and you're stuck in the grief, seek help. Definitely seek help. There's help out there. A therapist, if you don't like therapists, support groups. If you don't like support groups, even just reach out to somebody and say, I'm stuck, please help me. There's always somebody that will help you. Don't give up. Keep keep working at it and searching for it, because it's possible. It's possible to get through the grief, and it's possible to find the beauty in life again. It's not easy, but it is definitely possible. Tina, what do you have to say about that?
Tina, did you want to add anything on to that? Her video may be frozen. How about you, Dina?
Well, since I'm the therapist, I agree with everything she said. um, I kind of think the therapist has to agree with what she said. Okay, so getting past the fact that I'm a licensed therapist. Oh, Tina's back. I'll hand it back to Tina in a second. But Lois said what I would have said. You know, a lot of people, I'll say what people need to know about therapy. A lot of people get burned out on therapy because they don't have a good fit with a therapist. And as a therapist and as an admin, I want to tell you that that's okay. I don't mesh with every single client I've ever had. Not every single client is going to be a good fit. And please, please feel comfortable enough to acknowledge that. A good therapist is going to recognize that and say, okay, so let's see what we can do to see if we can fix that. And if we can't, let's get you a different therapist in the group. And if there's not a different therapist in the group, it is my ethical duty to find you someone else. It's my job. Do no harm and do good. Those are my top 2 codes and my code of ethics. Every client everywhere needs to know that, and I feel like we don't do a good enough job making sure that people know that. Please hear me when I say that. Spoonies need to know that. And even if after hearing me say that, you're still like, nope, 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 not going there. Don't like therapists. I don't care what you say. It's fine. Therapy doesn't have to be for you. And maybe you live in the middle of absolute nowhere. I understand that too, because I've lived in the middle of nowhere. And if you have to drive more than an hour to get to a therapist and there's no teletherapy available for you, of course you're not going to do it, because that's too many spoons. Find a friend you can talk to. Find a support group. Find what you can, because you absolutely have to get rid of the stress. You must let it go somehow. I have to. I'm a licensed therapist, and I can tell you that when I haven't let it go, it has hurt me. We all have to let it go. Every last one of us. So please find some way to let it go. Be it therapy, be it a friend, be it something in the middle. Please find a
Dina, are you there? Oh, you're back.
I guess I'm back. I don't know. I think my internet's getting sketchy.
Okay, we'll move on to Tina. We heard you, plead for people to ask for help. Did you want anything else after that? Before we switch to Tina? Okay. Tina?
Okay. I was just going to say, along with mourning who you were and the stages of grief, give yourself time to do the mourning. We all need to let ourselves cycle through it, and we need to be able to be angry about it. And we all do get angry about it, because I think even though I've gone through it once or twice or 3 times, I'm sure I'm going to get angry about it again. And it's okay to let yourself feel that way, but don't stay there. And it's okay to have a good cry once in a while, but don't stay there. And then once you're able to stop crying and have a little bit of acceptance, then you can start looking forward to who you are now. And so you can't go hiking for 6 hours. Well, you can still go for maybe a half an hour hike, or you can do things online. You can learn how to crochet. You can make a new you that is just as good and just as important as the you were before. And that's not something I deal with well. I'm still learning how to do that, but it's true, and you do need to find who you can be. If you just kind of stay in one spot and say, well, I can't do this and I can't do that, I'm no good, then you're putting yourself in a hole. You need to be able to push and look into your other interests and maybe magnify interests that you've had kind of on the back shelf for a while. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Tina. I think those are excellent points. Finding that new you, finding that new thing that you can do, or that old interest that you can now focus on. One of the comments, here by Jolene, after she talks about mourning, she suggests, saying, this isn't the life she asked for, but who gets that anyway? Take life slower. The more you see, the small stuff, enjoy it. Take to heart what's around you as each and every new day. I think that's really key. Enjoy those small little things. It doesn't need to be those huge, enormous things to really get us to move forward. Now, as far as how to generate our spoons and keep going our best days, slowness, unfortunately can be the best way to do it, to preserve and actually get the most done. I find if I can try to move slowly, get a couple little chores here and there done sporadically throughout the whole day, more gets done than instead of going, I'm gonna clean the whole house, because that's gonna mean in 20 minutes I'm laying in bed going, this pain won't stop. And so you gotta find the balance. And so for me, it's been slowing down, finding my own limits, and doing what I can. Doesn't mean I'm the best at it. I want to clean the whole house or do that big thing all at once just because that's what we're used to or what we once did before, and it's not always what is best for us. What other tips do we think that would help out other Spoonies? Lois, do you have any other things you would like to add?
I think that it's other things to do to help yourself while you're trying to go through everything you're going through and coping is to, like everyone else said, find things to make a new you. I went and I'm learning how to crochet, I'm learning how to paint, I'm learning how to do all kinds of things. I also, before becoming totally disabled, we were very active. We rode our bikes and we went hiking and we did all kinds of stuff, and it was so, my husband and I both were very angry for a long time of not being able to do those things, and then finally one day we got past that and realized, hey, you know what, let's go get a wheelchair. And my husband said, I'll just push you around and we'll go for walks and we'll make this what we can make it. And I was like, okay. And so we went on OfferUp and we found a wheelchair for like $70, and because my insurance wouldn't pay for it, because of course insurance wants you to be totally bedridden practically before they'll give you a wheelchair. So we found a cheap one, and we go for a walk almost every day. Because, all I got to do is manage the spoons to put some clothes on and throw a hat, ponytail, and out the door we go. And so I think it's important to find those things. If maybe you need a walker, maybe you need a cane, whatever it is that will help you, use it. If you need that handicap parking spot, go and get the placard and use that spot. If you need that cart to be able to go to the grocery store, use that cart. When people look down at you, when people say something because you don't look disabled, don't let it get to you. Don't let it be part of what feeds that depression and that kind of, oh great, yeah, you're right, I guess I don't look, don't let that feed that negative bug that wants to be there in your brain. Use those things that will help you to get out and enjoy life. Don't be afraid of it. Just go do it and enjoy it, and you will find happiness, and you will find a way to beat that grief. Not that it won't come back once in a while. It does. A show can come on with a busy ER in it, and my heart goes, oh, I miss that so much. And I kind of get a little ache for it, and then I go, okay, I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed now. So, I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say about that. Does anyone else have anything to say on that? Okay, Christina?
One of the biggest tips that I think I can give is research and learn as much as you can about the illnesses that you're diagnosed with, and even some of the illnesses that are closely related to the illnesses that you're diagnosed with, because some of them go hand in hand or can be easily misdiagnosed. And I think the more you research your illness, the more you come to understand how to manage it or explain it to others, and the calmer you will feel about it because you know more what to expect. And along with that, talking to doctors and especially nurses. Nurses seem to know a lot of the ins and outs of the trade. One thing I do is journal, keep like a pain diary or an illness diary, and that will help you learn all your well, not all of them, but it will help you learn triggers, and like if the weather's causing problems, or if you eat pizza and then you're miserable the next day, obviously pizza's probably not one that's going to be good. And take your notes to the doctor appointment with you and say, hey, this is what I have noticed. Does that help you help me? Dina, do you have anything to add?
I wanted to build on what Lois was saying. My dish was visiting this last weekend, and I had a lot of joy, but I also had a moment of grief when we were out at the ocean, because I used to love boogie boarding. I'm from Iowa, and obviously no ocean. And so when I first moved out here, I was just like, oh, this is amazing. But between EDS and now I realize that I have degenerative disc disease, yeah, no way. But I got a walking stick, and I was out there this weekend with the walking stick, and between the walking stick and my dish, I was able to enjoy it. I mean, I had my braces on, I had him, I had my walking stick, and yeah, I probably looked like a goof, but I was out wading in the ocean, and I was secure, and I was having fun, and I wasn't pulling myself apart, and it was good. You need to find those things. Yes, there was a bit of grief. No, I can't boogie board anymore. If I boogie board, yeah, I'm tearing up a little bit. If I boogie board, I'm going to pull my neck apart. I don't need to pull my neck apart anymore. That's just not a good thing. But I'm okay with that because my neck hurts enough as it is. I'm really okay with that. But I love science, so I was really sitting there going, this is cool. This stick rocks. Holy cow, this is really keeping me pretty grounded. And it was. I was really enjoying the fact that the ocean was doing its best to pull me out, and the stick did its job. So if there are things that you think you've lost completely, find the assistive tech. And when I say assistive tech, it's because that's part of my job. It doesn't have to be something crazy high-end. It could be a walking stick. It can be a different style of pen. It can be something simple. It can be going to Walgreens or CVS and getting that walker that, yeah, okay, so you're my age and you don't really want a walker. Get one that's fairly basic and get cool duct tape and make it your own. Do what you have to make it okay. Because you're a Spoonie and you have the right to grieve, but you also have the right to move on and enjoy your life. And you're going to need the assistive tech. It's part of your life. So at least make it cool. Mark.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted to go back into the assisted tech, but you covered it very well. I thought Lois had brought up that point, as a very good point, because we resist those things. I don't want that. I don't want to have that label or whatever. I don't want to park in that spot. I'm this big, strong guy. Why would I want to park in a handicap spot closest to the door? That doesn't look good, but it helps. Or you use that cart. On really painful days, I'll sit in that cart. Yes, I get strange looks and people think, oh, maybe I'm just trying to boogie around or something, but it's not the case. You're doing what's good for you and not what's best for whoever's watching you. And so that's what you always got to make sure you remember, is doing what's best for you. Is there any other points that we wanted to add in or anything like that? All right. So I want to thank everybody for watching us here today on Spoonie Space on our transitioning into being a Spoonie. Thank you and enjoy.